Hi, welcome to another Roboflow training movie. Today the focus will be how to start processes in Roboflow triggered by an external tool or an external functionality. I created a workflow called hotfolder process, in this case sites requests, but it could be any requests coming from anywhere. And the basic idea is that this workflow is looking into a folder and expecting to receive an XML file. I have here a couple of examples prepared, and so what we are going to see in this workflow is that based on some parameters in an XML file, you can have Roboflow do some stuff automatically. The focus here today will be I will communicate something to the user. I will either send them files, or I will send them a pin collection, or I will send them access to a normal collection in sites. Challenge in workflow is not just automating the backend, but also the interaction with the user, things that need to happen automatically or can happen by an interaction with the user. So the most common example is of course a pin collection. Let's say that you have an external system that wants to communicate to a user that there's a couple of files he should take a look at or that he should download. So I created here an XML file, and in this XML file you specify first of all what the email address is of the user to connect to, and then you can here add the URL to connect to. Basically it is calling the pin collection GSPX collection name with the name of collection that Roboflow is going to create. So Roboflow is, in this first example, creating a pin collection, but I added a little extra feature. Sometimes people don't like the fact that the pin collections URLs are not protected, or that, like direct URLs, they are very easily hacked. So in this example we encode we have Roboflow encode this part, that variable part of this instruction of this HTML, and on the other side in sites we decode it. And then you can specify the records. You can specify in this example the records by specifying the catalog ID and record ID, comma separated, for instance. Or in another example, we'll see that instead of specifying immediately which records, you could just specify the query. Could be that you have a SKU or a project ID or something unique in your Cumulus catalog you can search on, so you can send the users files in a query. It could be that you want to send the users a pin collection of all the assets that have been added, cataloged today. So then you could have here a query saying something like item modification date bigger than today minus 1 day, which means it looks for any files cataloged in the last 24 hours, which could be a cool feature to notify your users about new stuff arriving in a certain catalog. We will see that in a later example. In the first example, I just specified that I will have 4 records in my pin collection, and so if when I take this example and say copy, and in Roboflow I created a drop folder where these files arrive, and I will make it unique. It's The name of the file you're dropping in this example is the unique identifier for the collection it creates. So make sure you always create a unique collection. So I'm just doing it like this. You could also have Roboflow pick a random collection name. In this case, I'm taking the name of the file that is dropped into the request. So if I now run this workflow, I will get feedback from Roboflow in the log. So I can go and have a look in the log, and what it says is that it found the pin collection file. It's reading the pin collection file and sees that it's a request pin collection example, and the action that we are requesting is a pin collection. So in the XML file, I forgot to mention, I specify what exactly I want Roboflow to do with it. I want him to create a pin collection. So Roboflow now has taken this information, searched for these records, added them to a pin collection, and created a mail that contains this URL. So let's have a look at the mail of Peter. So let's ask for pickup of the mail, and here's just a new mail that has arrived, and I can see that I have a mail text that you can control completely from Roboflow or even from your XML file. I'm saying, dear user, click on the link below or copy it into your browser to access the files from Cumulus. And it even gives you a little logging information about the different files that it has processed, so you know exactly what it has done. And you can see it's an unreadable URL, so if you try to play around with it, it just breaks. So it's something that is completely safe to use. And when I click on it, it just opens as a normal pin collection with the normal pin collection functionalities. And depending on what is defined in Roboflow, you can even define which of the buttons should be available or not. So this was a very easy and simple example of how by creating an XML file you can ask Roboflow to send a pin collection to somebody. So your internal system can push information to Roboflow. Sometimes I get asked to also do that for creating some files. Maybe an external system wants to deliver a bunch of files to somebody. So another example can be that if I here go into my folder, that I can have a download example. Now the download example, if I pick this up, I just do copy and I'm dropping this into my request folder. Of course, Roboflow runs normally automatically on a time schedule, so it would pick this up immediately. And for the purpose of this demo, I'm just running this on demand to give me the time to explain to you what it really does. So if we look at the download example, we specify who has to be notified, and this could even be a semicolon or comma delimited list of a bunch of users. Again, you will recognize that Roboflow here receives some records to process, actually the same bunch of records, and that the action is set download. But on top of the normal action set download, it also specifies an asset handling set to use. So you can define copy original asset or whatever other asset handling set you have. Roboflow will process these files, bundle them into a file, into a zip, and then he will catalog the file in the catalog called asset delivery catalog. And then it will provide it to the user as a direct URL. But again, as I mentioned before, the direct URL is actually something that is very readable and can be very easily broken or hacked by just trying what IDs are available. So to avoid that kind of insecurity, again, we encode the URL. So if I run this particular example, and if I simply start the workflow, and if I do show log, I can see that it has processed the files it found in this example, and there's one file it cannot convert, so you even get feedback. It was asking for a PCT file which uses the Helios filter, which it cannot do, so it even tells you if you're asking it to do a conversion of something that doesn't exist, you will have in the log the feedback if it was successful or not. So this is giving you all the control over the process. So if I now check my mail, there you have it, and I get a new mail, again nicely encoded, not something easily can be easily faked or hacked. And when I click on it, it just downloads the file. So I created that download file, that zip. Notice that it uses the file name to so you can push from whatever system you want a unique file name to here. Make sure that it is a valid file name, of course, that keeps it consistent. In this case, it only delivered 3 files because one of the files was not available for download. And so it can, of course, only deliver what is available. Okay, so a third example is that you can have a print template. Maybe you want to send a contact sheet to somebody about a selection of records, saying instead of just sending a pin collection to your user saying, hey, these are the new photos, or these are the new brochures, or this is, you can define a print template in your Cumulus client, and this print template is exactly the same syntax. The only difference is that you here specify in the action print, and in the action parameter you specify the name of your print template that you created. And again, the protected direct URL, it will create the PDF, it will catalog the PDF in the asset delivery catalog, and then create a URL that delivers it, if the user clicks on it, delivers it to the user. So let's have a look. When we copy this file, Control C, I go here and I put it in the drop folder of this workflow, and we already have taken a look at it, so I'm just making it unique. And now we execute exactly the same procedure again. And if we go to show log, we can go here to the bottom and we see that it received a print example, action print, parameter default. It finds the records to process, and in this case no problem because there's no conversion to be done. This record view set, sorry, this print template uses the thumbnail, so it doesn't have to convert this into anything, so it isn't running into an error message for that file. And then it even logs you which file it has created, and it says, okay, the mail was sent to Peter. Checking my mail again, and there we go. And then, oh, that's not necessary to double click. I have here again the list of files contained, and I have the link again encoded, so it cannot be faked. And you see print example123.pdf. I say okay, and the result is a print template. And if I look at the print template 1, 2, 3 that I just created, here are the same four records, but now in a print template. And the look and feel of your print template is whatever you are allowed and able to define in a print template. You can make the URL, the thumbnails clickable, the images clickable, that there's a URL behind them, bringing you right into sites, etc., etc. So whatever you want. Good. So then another example, we just did the print template. Let's quickly have a look at this one. Print template, this is print query example. So I'm going to copy this here to the request, paste, and if I now take a look in the file, I don't have my Roboflow underscore records here, but I have a catalog and I have a query. So the query can be whatever valid Cumulus query is. The syntax of this query is the advanced search, is the find window, and then you click on the advanced search and you can construct the query there. You notice that I did not add the ugly GUI in front of it, so Roboflow doesn't need that big number letter thing in front of it. You can remove it, but you can keep it as well. It doesn't matter. You can even use here the name of a stored query, so it doesn't even have to be the syntax of a full query. You can just put the name of a stored query here too. So, and we're asking for the print. You can do it with any of the examples I've shown. So you can do this query catalog combination with all examples I'm showing you today. And this one is doing the print. So I'm looking for anything that is in the sample catalog attached to a category called Berlin. Okay, so let's close this and let's make this unique. Like this, and then let's now run the workflow. Here's the workflow, and I can say start. Running, and if I do show log and go all the way to the bottom, I can see that there's a lot more records here. So here I can see that request, and it even tells you the query. It says how many records it's found for this query, and then it processes the records one by one, and the log wasn't finished yet, so I do a refresh, and there we get the rest, and then it says it created this PDF file and it mailed it to Peter. What I also do is that I nicely clean up afterwards because it's converting, etc., etc. So the temp folder at the end will always be empty, because whatever result I do, I catalog to the asset delivery catalog using a vault, or using another central asset location, which makes it very easy for this file to be available through the web. So let's have a look in the mail. There you go. And when I open it, it's the same PDF, but this time the PDF, of course, here it is, print 1, 2, 3, has all these different records that are attached to a category in Berlin. Now, a final format or final example is the possibility to not just send somebody a pin collection, because the disadvantage of a pin collection is that it's a closed box. The user cannot do anything with it anymore other than download and print and preview, um, but they cannot create a new collection. So imagine the situation where you have a photo shoot coming in, 200 files, and you want somebody to make a selection from those. Well, you can just use this example, the collection example. And in this collection example, I'm creating a real Cumulus collection, which can be opened if necessary in the native client, but which can also be made available in, for instance, sites. With a simple personalization in sites, I'm sending this with a special URL, and it will populate sites automatically. It will populate the records in sites automatically. So if I have a look, again, exactly the same syntax, something I invented, basket name, I'm sending the basket name over, which I will store in the session, and then I know later on in the thumbnail view page, I have this stored in the session, so I have to load the records from this record box, from this collection. Here again the same for records, but now I'm specifying as action collection. So it's a normal Cumulus collection that this will create. Let's make it unique. There we go. And let's run the example. Now we can close this and refresh. Yep. So start. If we do show log, we can see that we received a collection request. There was no parameter, and then it just looks for the records, and it says, okay, I've sent an email to Peter. If I check Peter's mail, there you go, I just get an email and I can just say I want to access this. So when I click on it, and that's then the big difference, I first ask the user to log in. So I'm saying, hi Peter, and notice also that the URL is just again this same logic, this same URL. Yeah, this is a debug function that I still have to remove here, that basket word, but it just loaded those. So you give the user the ability right away to work with these files and not have to search for them themselves, but you keep all the other functionalities of Cumulus available. So the user has direct access to this basket without the limitations of a pin basket. So this was an example of how you can drive Roboflow from an external group of XML files. To finalize here, I can show you why it would be useful, for instance, for a print template or for a download to be processed by Roboflow. If in sites at some point you want to select a bunch of files and maybe your web server is not a very strong server. Your web server maybe doesn't have a big cache or storage. Whenever you process something in sites, when a user requests 20 files in a zip, for instance, downloading a collection, at that point the user will have to wait for what he has asked for. He cannot he just has to wait for it, and if the web server is very busy, it could take a while, and he has to wait in his website for it to come back before he can download it. On top of that, maybe your web server will fail because it is too busy, because it doesn't have enough storage, and because it doesn't have enough CPU power, etc. So with a website, you never know if you're going to have 5 people connected and doing requests, or 5,000 people connecting. If you're moving away that process to Roboflow, then Roboflow is going to process them sequentially. Yes, it could take a few seconds longer to wait, or even a few minutes longer to wait, but the user will have it, and you keep your web server very quick and not bothered by all these conversion processes. So as an example, I integrated it here into sites. So let me start by putting in some files, whatever, doesn't matter. So let's take this cloud one, and let's take this penguin, and let's look a little bit further, and let's maybe put this, doesn't really matter, and this one as well. So, oh, sorry, that was a direct download. So if I put this all in my basket and I go and have a look in the basket, I have 3 files in the basket. Maybe let's take another example. Let's put this diff also in the basket. So I just go to my download functionality. I have exactly the same screen and exactly the same options. It uses pure sites, but what I did is, first of all, I give the opportunity to change the email to whom you're sending it, and I give you the possibility here to say send download link. What this does is it just communicates with Roboflow and says to Roboflow, here's the request, this user, these files, this conversion. So when I do this, it's processing this, and after a couple of seconds it's sent to Roboflow. If we have a look in Roboflow, what it did is it just created this XML file with a unique ID and gave me all the information that I need to create this. So I can now use this to create my result. So if I now go to Roboflow and I say run workflow, as I said before, this will be running automatically on a 10-second or 30-second interval, so it doesn't really matter. But if I go to show log, you don't have to go in and click. I can see here the request name coming in. I can see what was requested. I can see the files it's putting in, and it's emailed. So it created this zip in this temp folder. It won't be there anymore. And then we have a nice email to the person who requested it. So this is again exactly the same thing as you've seen before. The only difference is you get it nicely in a mail, and the web server didn't need to process it. It was whatever computer the Roboflow server was running on. And we have our zip with the files we requested, those 3 files that we requested. So that's a real benefit, that you do not have to wait for it in your web browser. And you can do the same with the print template, for instance, with a little bit of personalization in sites. So this was another example of what you can do with Roboflow, and this was driving Roboflow from an external source, and I hope this was useful for you. If you have any questions, just let me know.